Welcome to AI and Automation in Action, where we show business leaders how to turn AI from a buzzword into measurable operational leverage. If you're serious about operational efficiency and responsible AI adoption, you're in the right place.
Hey there, Hunter. Welcome back to AI and Automation in Action, where we dive into real-world use cases of AI and automation. And today, I'm really excited to be talking about one we built for our internal use for our managed service provider business, or our MSP. As many people probably know, we've been in the managed service provider or technology consulting business for a little over 25 years now. And one of the things that we're very, very proud of is the process that we've built for our clients to really have a deep dive into bringing awareness and information to their fingertips around the risk and liability. And we do that through a proprietary process we've developed over the last probably 15 years for auditing and alignment. So a lot of businesses or a lot of MSPs talk about audits. It's one of the cornerstones of how we deliver our service. And really the value is we want to be able to see what problems could exist and cause problems before they impact our users. And for a long time, this is one of our, like I say, our key cornerstones of how we differentiate in the market. We had to really have a really dialed in process around this. But the process itself, up until we got you involved and you worked your magic, it was a very, very manual process. To kind of highlight what that looked like for us, as an MSP or a managed service provider, one of the things that we feel is very, very important is to go in and analyze every piece of technology component. And we want to look at it, where does it sit today versus industry best practices versus our best practices versus our client best practices, and highlight any items that are out of alignment. So for example, Microsoft 365, we know that every organization should have multi-factor authentication turned on for every user, but we know a lot of organizations push back against that. They've got special use cases that we don't want to do this, and this user can or whatever. And we need to make sure that we show them what that risk is and quantify that. So that process historically has been, we have a proactive service engineer or technology alignment manager, as we call them, go into the Microsoft tenant manually, have to go log in. They have to go scroll through all the users that are there, identify any that do not have multi-factor enabled, and then generate a report that highlights that and then explains the risk. So as you can imagine, that's a very time-consuming and tedious process. We wanted to touch on every aspect of technology in the client environments, whether that's their wireless networking, whether that's their PCI compliance, backups, cybersecurity, all of those factored in. And so there was a constant list of audits that had to be run, all requiring someone to go manually log in, check the compliance items, and go report back. So now that I've given a long-winded explanation of what we did that was really unique to our operations, tell me what you were able to build that dramatically is changing what service we can bring to our clients.
Absolutely. So we have tied in, using one of our existing tools right now, we are able to create dashboards that is tying in with these systems and allowing our proactive service engineer or manager to get to this dashboard when they bring up the assessment. That is drastically reducing the logins, that manual tedious work like you had talked about of reviewing the list of users and then generating that report, as all of that is already in that dashboard. Now, with that tool, there have been some limitations to some of our other tools being able to integrate to that dashboard. And so what I have also been able to do is create a separate automation. So our proactive service engineer is kicking off this assessment, kicking off this automation, and then going to the dashboard and working through those questions that the automation is not providing. And the automation that has been created separately here is tying in with our ticketing system, and it's able to pull in all the tickets for the past 60 days and projects and quotes. It's able to pull in any failed backups or any backups that have had issues. our antivirus platform, and it's able to pull in high alerts, medium alerts, low priority alerts. So we're getting all of that in separate CSVs that are being attached to the ticket by the click of a single button. There's a few other tools there as well, like our SOC and SIEM, Office 365s. There's a few others that I'm probably missing as well here, but as you get the point, it's limitless in terms of what we can tie in to an existing automation. We can continue to layer that on just as long as it supports that cloud API access.
Yeah, and that's been one of the biggest things internally that's had me so excited over the last 6 months, really, because we put a lot of time into designing this to get to this outcome. And the idea is, instead of spending the manual time logging in, navigating menus, documenting the results in a separate platform, now we have this at a glance. So instead of something taking days and hours to go through and do a full audit, we actually can get those same results literally at the click of a button in a dashboard. And then it becomes about, what do we do with those things that are out of alignment? That's where the real value comes in, because the audits are important. Someone needs to be checking and have visibility. But if all of your time is spent manually going out and collecting this data, you lose the potential of what you really can drive in terms of results. And that was our biggest focus, is now we've got in a single view all of this information readily available. Now we can act on it. Now, I want to kind of give a sneak peek of what this really looks like in the next phase. And now that we've got these dashboards built where we can see, here's the item that's out of alignment. One of the other areas that you focus on a lot is the execution of automation. So now we've got the data there. We can leverage an automation platform. So let's go back to the example of multi-factor authentication. In the Microsoft 365 tenant, if we identify a user that does not have multi-factor authentication turned on, my next goal with this is, through the use of our internal automation, for that technology alignment manager or proactive service engineer to click the remediate button, and it actually goes out and does the work of turning on multi-factor authentication. So we've got that capability now that it's not just finding that data and displaying that data. We can build automations that execute on that data, correct?
Absolutely, because all of that's going to be controlled since we are already pulling that data in. We're logged in effectively to the tenant. We have permissions over those users. We have access to do effectively make changes. So there's nothing stopping us from changing those permissions or enabling multi-factor authentication. The only limitation that we may run into from time to time is if an endpoint is not supported by the API, but 99% of the time, if you're pulling that information in already from the endpoint, it's going to support making changes to that endpoint as well.
It's incredible. It's what really excites me about where innovative automations is going and the value that we can bring to organizations. Because as I look at this from a business owner perspective, we had individuals that their entire day is dedicated just to the audit component. Then we had tickets that got created from that, the things that needed to be remediated or corrected. Then we had a review process for someone to present that data. Now we're consolidating that into where I don't even know how to put a number on this at this point in terms of efficiency gain and hours that we're adding back. And our goal is ultimately not just for our internal operations, but for our clients as well. So all of that information needs to be something that they can query and view. And that's the ultimate goal, is use the automations to get the data that you need and build automations to act on it. I'm so excited about this, Hunter. I'm so glad you're on our team. I'm glad that you're building this stuff for us. This is awesome. So I appreciate the insight into what you've been putting forth on our internal operation.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Hunter.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to AI and Automation in Action. If today's conversation sparked ideas about how AI or automation could improve your operations, we'd love to continue that discussion with you. Join us next time as we showcase another real-world implementation and break down how to deploy AI responsibly and effectively. And if you want to brainstorm with our team, email us anytime at ideas@innovativeautomations.ai. Until next time.